Okay, so I've taken my glued balsa pieces, which I sometimes refer to as my set of stairs, because it kind of looks like a set of stairs, and my two pieces that I glued together for the body here. And I'm going to get the tape off of them, which can be a little annoying if you don't have fingernails. But you want to peel the tape off. Hopefully you cleaned up most of the glue, because it's really annoying to try to sand away glue. It's pretty hard, certainly compared to the balsa. All right, so here, let's start with this guy here. You can see it's got this 3 levels here, and I've got a block. And if I take my block and I wrap sandpaper around it, we call this block sanding. I know, very technical, right? And what I'm basically going to do is take my block, and I'm going to hold it at a little bit of an angle. I'm going to hold the block so that it's kind of like that, all right? And lean it against the table. Now, I'm doing this at one of these last few tables by the wood shop for 2 reasons. One, it's closer to the vacuum, and also just these 2 tables end up getting, you can see this table's all scratched up from years and years of students sanding on it. So I'm pushing down, I'm standing up while I do this. I'm using my body weight to kind of lean down on this. We found out earlier that balsa is very soft because we were able to cut it with our pencil. And it also means that with some nice fresh 80 grit sandpaper, or 60 grit sandpaper, I can't even remember what this is, it's pretty rough. It means it's got big chunks of sand on it that remove the wood very quickly. And just a little bit of rub in there like that, you can already kind of see that those steps are gone. It's nice and smooth. Okay, I've still got ridges here, but here I've knocked them all down. So I'll move it over here. By the way, I'm generating a lot of sawdust here. These days we're all wearing masks anyway because of COVID. But regardless, sawdust can make your eyes itch, your nose run. Basically, you certainly want to clean up the sawdust as you go and not get it all over your neighbor. If you get sawdust on your fingers like I have right there, and then you go rub your nose or your eyes, you're going to grind that sawdust into your into your eyes and nose, and it's going to make it 10 times worse. So if you need to go into the other room by the wood shop, which of course we're nice and near, and rinse off just with some water, get the dust off your fingers, that's never a bad idea. So pretty quickly here, I've got this thing smoothed out to where there are no longer steps. You can still see the glue line there. If I look at it like that, you can see, or from the end, you can see that it's no longer like a set of steps. It's more like a wedge now, okay? So what I'm going to do before I make an even bigger mess here is vacuum up this sawdust, okay? Now, I get some students that are fascinated with the vacuum cleaner and spend more time vacuuming than actually working on their project. That's not a cool idea. I guess I can do this a little bit. It's got a little thin, almost like paper thin. I can sand that gently. Remember, guys, this is balsa. If you break it, you bought it. In other words, you're not getting a new one, so do be careful. You can see this front edge here is kind of rough where I glued the pieces together. What I'm going to do is go into the wood shop, and in there on the bench, there's a couple of pieces of long belts of sandpaper that I've screwed down to the table. And basically, you drag this back and forth on those pieces of sandpaper, and that will smooth this out. Look how nice and flat. Same thing with this guy. All right, so I'm back from drag sanding now. If you look at this guy, See how nice and flat and smooth that is? You can kind of see the glue lines there, but it almost looks like one piece, all right? But if you look at it from the side, you can see it's not rounded. I've got a sharp corner here and here, okay? Compared to, say, I don't know, my airplane. I'll flip this guy over. You can see the airplane is more curvy at the front edge here. Okay, and that's that airfoil shape we're trying to get. Very simple though, and we're almost there. So just taking a block and kind of working these corners like this or like this until those guys round over. Doesn't take a whole lot more work before all of a sudden it does look like an airfoil instead of a wedge. So now you can see that is an airfoil. Nice rounded there. Nice and rounded there. Okay. Oh, by the way, you look at the side of the plane here, and you'll notice that the front, the nose of the plane, we call it, is rounded here. And near the back, tear this piece of tape off, you can kind of see here that it gets skinnier here toward the end. We call that a taper. Okay? It's wider here and it gets smaller as we go toward the end. So those are things I need to do on this guy. Oh, upside down, Mr. Pat. There's my name. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to draw on them with some Sharpie. And wherever I draw on Sharpie is what I'm going to sand away. So it's a pretty simple way. Geez, how would I be able to know how much of the wood I should sand away and what shape exactly my example plane should be? I mean, I could look at the example plane. I guess I gave that away. I've got one right here. But another thing I could do is walk on over to my project board where there's an example, and I can kind of copy right from there to have the proper amount of wood filled in with Sharpie. And you know what? I've been doing this a long time. I don't really need an example. I know I want my nose to be that much. And I know I want my taper to be about that much. And once again, use my block. Sometimes I'll even hang it off the edge of the table. It's a little easier to do it. There we go. Just got to remember that all the time we're sanding balsa, and you could break it with your hands just by holding it too tight or, you know, breaking it off the edge of the table, something like that. There, pretty quickly I've got that nose, and I can do the same thing on the end here. So once I get to this point, I will basically have all my pieces done. I've got my airfoil done, and earlier in the video I showed you how to make the elevator and the rudder. And now I've shaped my body. So I've got this little taper on the end. I've got the nose nice and rounded. And I've got my 4 pieces that all go together to become my plane. There'll be one more quick video that shows you some tricks for putting these pieces together so it's not a disaster. All right, I didn't quite get all the way there, but you can still see that I sanded this down and it's gotten skinnier. So that's actually not a bad plane body. Here's my wing. Over in the period drawer, I have my elevator and my rudder. So I am good to go. When a student gets to this point in the project, I'll give you a little demo in person, or you can watch the next video. All right? Make sure your name's on everything. Pretty important. All right? Good luck, guys.